episode of Your Brain on Hops. Today we'll be talking about Victory Brewery. Got a lot of great beers coming there from the brewery out of Pennsylvania. Tonight I have with me, as always,
Alex.
Dan.
Alright, Dan. If Dan sounds a little ornery, it's with good reason. On the way to the recording today, Dan had a bit of a thing happen. You want to talk about that a bit?
What do you want to call it? A misnomer? Mishap? Just a blunder?
Anytime this happens, it's a travesty, really.
It's so
a travesty.
sad. We were actually at our local establishment, Aurora Brewworks in East Aurora, New York, and we had a couple beers, and I purchased some. We're purchasing beer for tonight's recording, and I had recently had to steal this can from a Lord Hobo Brewing Company out in Massachusetts, a delicious American IPA, and I loved it. And I decided, oh, wait, there's one 4-pack left, and I was like, oh, that's so mine. I'm taking that home with me, and I bought it. Well, unfortunately, on the way as I'm walking to my car, that lovely plastic cap that surrounds itself around the 4 cans, has that one stupid little ring which you can kind of hook your finger through, and I'm sitting there and I'm holding it, and I'm getting to go to my car, and I realize, well, it's in the wrong hand. I can't reach my keys in my pocket, so I go to switch hands, and as I do, I fucking dropped the damn thing. And 2 cans went lovely smashing against the ground, spraying this lovely, pissant stream of hoppy goodness all over my jeans, and I just kind of stood there. I didn't even move out of the way. I just kind of let it happen, and I was like, what? I deserve this. I 100% deserve this, and I was just so disappointed.
Instant sad face.
Can't even, I had only 2 options. It was either I can either just watch this go down in flames, or I could pick these cans up and try and shotgun them. I was like, I
like how that, I don't know if that would have entered my mind. Pick them up and shotgun them.
Just drink them down. I was like,
they are great beers, though.
It was such a good beer. I mean, I still have 2 cans left, but even those cans are it was like holding a nuclear bomb. I was holding them. I was I saw the dent marks. This is where it's gonna blow. This set them down lightly, and I drove to where we are now recording, and the cans even fell forward. I was like, if these fucking things blow in my car, I'm gonna be even more pissed off. I'm like, not here, not now.
Well, I'm glad you got to save some of them. I mean, it's a great beer. And on the plus side, your pants are going to smell delicious.
Oh, my hands are just...
all that happy
my hands are just sticky right now.
So a typical Tuesday night for you is what you're saying.
Typical Tuesday? Typical just everyday week. What are you talking about, Tuesday?
Good stuff. Moving on to less salacious topics. The first beer we're having from Victory tonight is one of the favorites of mine, at least from Victory, Hop Devil. It's an India Pale Ale of theirs. I don't know if they have an official flagship beer, or maybe in terms of sales they have one that sells the most, but in terms of beer that really sticks out from Victory Brewing, Hop Devil is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, it clocks in at 6.7. It's a delicious IPA. Just kind of really a staple of the brand, or the type, I should say, of beer, of IPAs. If anything, it tends a little bit malty.
Right, it's definitely more of an East Coast IPA. Mm-hmm. And there's a sweet malt character, caramel character to it. It's almost like a toasted bread or bread crust.
That's a great description, yeah, bread crust. Because it's not really... It's got the malty character, but it's not a sweet malty character that just comes from...
Right.
Like higher ABV beers where there's just too much malt.
Right. It's a little toasty.
It's specific.
But then with those citrusy, juicy American hops in there, it's delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do a good job with the American hops. They go into specifics of what kind of hops there are?
No, they don't.
No, all they say is whole flower American hops.
Yeah. Whole flower American. I mean, that nails the taste of it, but...
Yeah.
Really what they kind of focus on is that malt characteristic. It's that 2-row German malts, and even in their flavor, just bold, spicy, and just provided by German malts. That's what they're focusing on. They don't give in to most characters of just what the hops are. And that's really what I'm picking up in the taste, is that malt, that little bit of caramel, what you get from that toasted finish, and that's what I'm picking up a lot of, and just that slight bitterness from that hops, and that's what I'm really enjoying about it.
Yeah, that little bit of like piney character in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good description. It definitely is malt forward, and the piney character, the bitterness from the hops, it's there. It's a good IPA overall, and like you said, good East Coast style IPA, but it's definitely driven by the malts.
I'm looking at their food pairings, and I love pairing beer with food or getting any chance to get. And cheddar cheese, I can kind of see the barbecue ribs that they've got. I totally see that. Just the caramelization of sugars and drinking it. I can absolutely just get that grilled sensation, the little smokiness. Absolutely, I can see it there. And now I want to go and just kill like a whole hog and just barbecue it.
I've seen you do that before.
And I do it well.
You absolutely do it well.
I may be black and Jewish, but if there's one thing a black man knows how to do, it's kill a pig and eat it.
I defer to your expertise. So let's talk about German malts. Makes me think, I know in Pennsylvania, a lot of that state was settled by German people emigrating over. Even the whole like German Deutsch, or Dutch thing is from Deutsch, and just the German word for German. So a big German tradition. I wonder if that influenced Victory at all, since they are housed in Pennsylvania.
It's a good possibility. I do know that I believe the two brewers that started it their education was in Germany. So that could have a pretty big influence on the German malts that they use and things like that.
It's a good place to get a training.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it's a good place to then continue brewing.
Especially with the Reinheitsgebot.
The Reinheitsgebot, German purity law. From an American point of view, I appreciate what it did at the time, but very constricting nowadays from an American point of view.
Oh, yes.
Coming up on the 500th anniversary of that. But still, German brewing, great place to go and learn techniques, skills, all about the brewing process.
Right.
And then if you come back to America afterwards, look at Victory. You have great results.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that, if I remember correctly, Hop Devil was one of the first IPAs that I actually had.
It's a hell of an IPA first IPA from a brewery, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it is pretty... It does have a good bitterness to it, but it's still nice and malty and approachable for an IPA, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
But it got me into it, and I still remember one of my good friends, he bought a 6-pack of it, and it was maybe like 2 weeks after I first had it, and he sent me a text saying that he couldn't handle the bitterness of it, and he's like, "Do you want it? I have 5 left." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I want it." So I literally drove over to his house a couple hours later, picked up a 5-pack for free.
Was this one of the first IPAs you had, or one of the first IPA from Victory that you had when you first started getting into craft beer?
It was definitely the first IPA I had from Victory. It may have been actually my first beer from Victory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I just know that the second I had Hop Devil, I knew about Victory. I searched for their beers, and I actually went to the brewery. I've been there 3 times, and it's one hell of a place. It's gorgeous in there. Their food is great. Their bar is massive, and the copper kettles that they used to have, they actually have the top of the kettles coming out over the top of the bar as an awning. It's pretty wild.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I've never been myself. Listeners, sometime in the future, live from Victory Breweries.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah, it's good to have a wish list. Dan, what was your first experience with Victory beer?
I'm having a hard time because I don't remember the first Victory beer I actually had. And I'm going through a list of them. I've had actually more than I thought, from just the Dirt Wolf to the Feist beer down to Mad Kings and whatnot and Sour Monkey. But the one that stands out the most is something actually I had hanging out with you, Chris. It was just the rep was there at a beer store, and he had a bottle off to the side, and it was the Victory Otto. and it was a smoked
yeah.
beer. And he's like, oh, it's got this almost bacon-like characteristic. And, well, who doesn't love bacon? So I'm like, this is at the very beginning of me getting into craft beer. I was like, I tasted it, and I was like, that's exactly what I wanted. I was like, that's amazing. And it actually became the first beer that I ended up aging on my, rack in my house. So I bought the beer, and I let it sit for a couple of years, and by the time I actually did crack it, it actually got better over time.
It did. I was there when you cracked it. That bacon flavor was phenomenal.
This is that great smoky, even almost a little saltiness came out of it. It was just so nice. And I was like, well, wait, now I only had one bottle of it. I was like, shit, I want more. And sure enough, we were at Aurora Brewing the one day, and they had a Victory rep there. And I asked him, I was like, do they ever produce the auto? I was like, it's not really producing right now, and don't know what, it wasn't a seasonal beer. And he's like, and he had said to me that they weren't producing at the time, and lo and behold, maybe a couple months down the line, he actually promised, he said, if I can get it, I'll send it. I was like, awesome. Didn't have any contact information, so kind of false promises. But I went into another establishment, and there on the shelf, one bottle left of Otto. That bottle is now mine. It is sitting in my house, and I am probably going to wait till the next pig roast that I do to open that bottle up again.
That's going to be a fantastic pairing.
So,
that was a good beer. And that rep, I remember being there. That was one of the first instances when we were really introduced to the idea of aging beers.
Exactly.
And that's a phenomenal beer to age.
And now my cellar's full of other ageable libations.
Now your second Otto is one among many.
It is.
My first experience with Victory, I don't even remember what Victory beer it was, but it was a local bar, and they're actually closed nowadays, but they had a beautiful wooden door when they were open. But we were there. I was there with some friends. Dan was there. We went for the wings because they had phenomenal. Oh yeah, we were there for Sabres game. So we were there, and we were first getting into craft beers. And most of my craft beer experience was buying it at a store or like Wegmans Craft Your Own 6-pack. Great introduction to craft beer for me. And when we were there, I saw this tap handle with the big red V on top. And I had no idea what it was for. I asked what it was. She said it was Victory beer. I said, how was it? She said, I don't know. Just this weird thing we have on tap. Do you want a blue light? I'm like, no, I'm going to go with that weird beer. I'm going to take a chance. And it was great. It was. I think it might have been one of the originals that's no longer in year-round production. But it was a great beer. And it was from Victory Brewery. So moving on to our next Victory beer that we have here today, celebrating 20 years of Victory Brewing. So 20th Anniversary Experimental IPA. This is actually kind of a rare beer because I think it's the first beer we had on the podcast where it's new to all three of our hosts. None of us have actually had this before tonight. So this tasting is just first-time impressions, and honestly, the first thing I thought when I drank it was, is this a Pilsner?
It definitely gives that impression. As it's warmed up a bit, I'm getting a little more of the hop character in the nose. So it's coming across a little bit more like an IPA to me now, but it still tastes like a Pilsner to me.
I'm getting a little bit of citrus, almost a little bit like almost tangerine kind of a flavor, but I'm not picking up enough bitterness. I don't know, it might be from the hops, but it's so light. It's actually very refreshing. I actually kind of do like this a lot.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything bad about the beer, but it does remind me more of a refreshing Pilsner than an experimental IPA.
That's the name that's throwing me off. Experimental IPA. When I hear those two words together, I'm expecting a slap in the face of something almost a little bit.
But it's experimental in the sense that it's experimental hops.
True.
It's the Idaho 7 hops.
This is true, but it doesn't say experimental hops. I look at that label and I go, experimental IPA. All right. I go IPA, I go hops. I'm not getting slapped in the face with hops.
Even with the experimental hops factor, Pilsners use hops. It's a low, they're like in the 5-10 IBU range. they're out of the big range like typical IPAs are. And typical
It
IPAs
could be higher than that.
Yeah.
For a light
Yeah.
Pilsner, yeah.
I mean, it's
But-
only
but I was
5.5, and it's just an ale, which I will always enjoy a good ale. And well, that's what an IPA is.
To be fair, that
It's
they
just
made
a
an ale
lighter
taste
end.
like a Pilsner, which is a lager. I'm kind of impressed by that.
I think it's a bit of a like herbal character
Yeah.
for me. That's kind of giving it that blanking on words.
The herbal character kind of plays into the tangerine citrus character that Dan mentioned earlier. And both of those I associate with some of the better craft Pilsners out there, rather than a craft ale out there.
Well, there it is. I did pick up on something earlier, and I had said it, and you guys thought I was absolutely out of my mind. I had said the word carrot. But it was I had specifically said I just got a whiff of something, and it was actually probably from the hops. It was wild carrot, or it was actually Queensland's lace, which, where I live, it's actually abundant. I can pick it up, and it's a very unique smell, but I just picked it up just a little bit. It's a floral characteristic that I just got out of it. And for some reason, it just took me right back to that notion. And so even though I had said the word carrot, not directly associated with the whole vegetable notion, for some reason I just picked it up a little bit.
Along the herbal line, I'm actually tasting a little bit of like black tea. I don't know where it's coming from.
I love black tea.
I can't corroborate that. I've had black tea earlier today as well, and I'm not getting black tea.
I think I do like it because it's very drinkable and it is quenching, but I think for a 20th anniversary beer, it's slightly underwhelming to me.
I can see what you're saying about that.
Yeah,
I think I don't know why, but maybe I'm just expecting more from a 20th anniversary. Go big, go bold, do something not crazy, but just bigger and bolder in flavor.
20th Anniversary Experimental IPA.
That's a big
Go
name
big,
to live up to.
man.
Yeah.
It's like, no holds barred. Just throw it out there. And
You're not wrong there.
But could you see these hops being used? Could you see this Idaho 7 hop being used to make this bigger and bolder?
oh, absolutely. I think, well, not bigger and bolder. I actually like this beer, but repackage it as something else, and then I want to see you make a new beer using those hops and see what you come up with.
Well, Sierra Nevada did a single hopped harvest version. I don't know if it's an IPA or a double IPA, but it's one of their harvest beers, and it's the single hop of Idaho 7. So it's kind of along the same lines, but theirs is a fresh hopped IPA.
Is that I don't know if I've had that. Is that a bolder tasting IPA?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
You know, I just took another swig of this, and I'm actually getting, we've talked about this on the podcast before, a unique taste that you get with the Pilsners and the lagers, of especially the light variety, and it's that drinkability factor. What do I want to drink during a sports game? What do I want to drink, during those events? I can see myself drinking this.
Yeah, I could see
It's
myself
got-
drinking this during that.
The hops comes out just enough for someone who really does like craft beer. It's right there, but it's light enough where I could keep drinking it. And especially at a 5.5, it's actually not that bad. It's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, I do like it.
So,
Honestly, and it is just the juxtaposition with the name. It's such a bold name. 20th Anniversary Experimental IPA. But the beer itself, very drinkable. Beautiful golden clear crystal quality.
Oh, yeah,
They
it's
kind of
gorgeous.
associate with some really good craft Pilsners. Honestly, too, for us, it might be just the time of the year. Right now we're in the end of winter. It's still cold outside. If this kind of beer came out in summer, I would love drinking this.
Oh, God, yeah.
the funny thing is, what was the, not to go back to another our other episode, was Dogfish came out with that experimental hops. But, different beer, different hops and whatnot. Thought they kind of went for a little bit more. I don't know how far you could push this hop variety. But it also is kind of it's mid-February in Buffalo. not really going for the Pilsner right now. I'm going for something that warms the soul. Maybe a different Victory beer. Maybe something a little old. I think we have something coming up, right, Chris?
We do. It might put us horizontal.
Right now.
Not the three of us together, though. Let's get that clear right now.
Horizontal. I'm vertical. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so that's that horizontal thing. We'll be drinking the Old Horizontal later on the podcast. Right now, though, let's get on to our next beer. We have Golden Monkey here from Victory. Actually, currently one of my favorite beers from Victory. It's in the 9s for the ABV, so pretty powerful. Belgian triple.
Along the lines of going horizontal, I think it can put you horizontal. At 9%, it's hidden extremely well.
It is.
Dangerously well.
That's an excellent point. Even looking at the beer, I mean, this looks very similar to the 20th Anniversary Experimental IPA we just had.
Yeah.
And there's a 4% ABV difference here.
Hold that up to the light, though. You get gold.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little more golden.
That's fair. That's fair. A little bit more gold, but it's still clear. It's a different type of gold. It's not cloudy. It doesn't look like a bigger triple.
Mm-hmm. It's nice. It's nice and like crisp and dry. It's effervescent. I get a little bit of like apple and pear in there.
I said before I kind of burped a little, and I said I got pineapple. I don't know why, but it just...
It's a good possibility.
It really is. I just like, ooh, tropical.
I don't know if we can blame that on this beer. Or...
It might be a combination of all three. Maybe just pour them into a big jug and let's see what happens.
Pineapple.
I'm looking at their site right now, and I'm sorry, I love this first line, and it just says, a magical, mystical monkey whose golden soul glows with the wisdom of ages. I almost feel like I should be a monk.
I don't
and that, Dan,
it just flows.
Is why you respect the monkey.
Yeah.
I do respect the monkey right now.
You respect the shit out of that monkey. Or
I want this monkey to give me a golden shower of golden monkey.
That's a whole new level.
I think you're alone in that. So.
I don't think I am. I think you'd accept it.
I don't think I would. If some golden monkey came over and he's like, dude, golden shower time, I'd be like, no.
Golden shower of golden monkey beer, though.
I don't want to be sprayed in Belgian triple beer. I mean,
because I do.
It's a step up from
maybe not by the monkey, but
from a stereotypical golden shower.
Maybe a hose.
It's still something I'm not
by
really.
A Belgian female.
Sounds sticky.
By a Belgian female. You're still being sprayed with.
I would always be.
Beer.
I would have no problem being sprayed with by a beer hose.
We'll have to agree to disagree. Listeners, chime in. Let us know. Would you get sprayed with a beer hose if given the opportunity? Good beer, mind
Not
you.
high pressure. We're not talking like,
No.
fire trucks coming out and blasting you to the ground.
It's not going to blast you to the
Shower.
ground.
Just a nice...
Yeah. Would you stand there in a soft pitter patter of golden beer as it fell down? I would say no. That sounds very sticky.
And you know what? Message us. Let us know if you would, and if you would, what beer would you want to be showered in?
Oh, that's a good question. If you pick a clever beer, you might get me to your side. I might be there in that beer shower. Well, when that goes down.
I did kind of have a reason for bringing this up. It's a little weird. My brother had actually sent me an email, and it's out in Slovenia. It's a small town.
Your brother's in Slovenia?
No, well, I'm not telling you where my brother lives. So he sent me an email, and a small town in Lower Slovenia Valley, where I think the town is known for the Valley of Golden Hops, because that's what they primarily produce. And it's kind of a tourist attraction. The big get is apparently what they're going to be doing is they're going to be putting a beer fountain in the middle of their town as part of the tourism. So, and this beer is supposed to be drinkable. And I'm like, how does this work? Exactly. I can see the puzzled look on Alex's face. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, drinkable fountain, and I'm just thinking the beer, and what I have pictured in my head is literally like just cherubs just shooting out beer and just fountains spraying everywhere. And I'm like, can I just take a mug and stick it in there and kind of just like fill my glass up and chug away? I'm like, shouldn't this be a little more controlled? How do you work this? And so to me, like, it sounds beautiful. Like, I'm just picturing this old town surrounded by golden green hops and this beer fountain. It's almost like the Willy Wonka factory of beer. And then I also have to remember, I'm like, how sanitary is this?
Sanitary, and plus that beer is probably going to be warm and flat.
It's probably.
I would still love to be there.
Yeah.
I would still love to be there.
So I would definitely drink from the fountain.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're there, you may as well.
You want to spray me with a hose of Golden Monkey? You spray away, and I will accept your gift.
Fair enough. Future podcast from the beer fountain in Slovenia. It's right. It's kind of south of that whole old Germanic area. So I don't know if Slovenia was ruled by the Reichstable or not. or really, even if it's a beer producing area, I don't know. But in any
Slovenia
case,
Valley and Slovenia town is Zalek. Sorry, Zalek. Said that wrong.
There we go. Hashtag knowledge.
Exactly.
And furthering our discussion of Victory tonight, we're going to move on to our next beer. And actually, this is a beer I've only had a few times. We have the Storm King Stout. Also in the 9% range, just like our last beer, the Golden Monkey. Pretty powerful beer here. One of the things that I first noticed about the beer, actually, and this relates to our last podcast, actually, is the color. Which, I mean, most beer tasting involves color. We don't mention it too much here. But our last podcast, we made fun of how it just says black. Like, no details, just black. And with this beer, it really gets to that heart.
Blackness!
The blackness. There's no tints to the sides. Light doesn't get through when you hold it up. It is black. A very true stout. One of my favorites.
Just that espresso just comes straight through. I know you had said, Alex, that you picked up on those hop characteristics, which I'm completely missing, because what I'm picking up on is this a lot of chocolate, dark roasted characteristics, which is why when I look at what they want to pair with is a lot of smoked meat and things like that. I want this for dessert. I want maybe even something a little sweeter. I'm getting a little bit of bitterness, which is probably coming from the hops, but I'm not getting a lot of floral, like what I expect from hops. I'm not picking that up first and foremost out of what they're saying, which is massively hop characteristics behind it.
I do agree with you. I'm not getting much floral hops, but I do get the hops. I get the bitterness, and it kind of blends in, almost masked by the roasted character
with the roastedness
of the malts. So you have that bitter character married to the roasted character. And that does make me want to really, if there's a barbecue brisket in front of me, I'll just turn into that thing.
Because when I get a beer like this, and I get something that's like, when I get bitterness and I get roastedness, and I'm picking up on that chocolate, just like always, good coffee is always just paired so well and compared to good chocolate. That's what I pick up on. I don't go immediately to smoked meats. I get that I get the roasted characteristic, and I can see that going with it, but I'm picking up on so much of that espresso that I'm just like, give me something to balance it out with, and that's why I want something a little bit sweeter.
And maybe that's the difference. Is when I smell this and drink this, the chocolate character isn't as pronounced to me. I get more of that bitter character from the hops, and I get more of that roasted character. Which with coffee, for me, it can go either way. Some coffee grounds produce a lot of chocolate character, some produce very little chocolate character. In this case, I do get that espresso character, especially in the nose, and I do get the everything else, the bitterness, the roasted character, but it's not a lot of sweetness. And plus, especially combined to, just going back to our last podcast again, all those chocolate beers where the chocolate was so obvious. With this, it's there, it's subtle, as in most stouts. But it's not too upfront, which is why I'd rather have this with meats.
Well, I can see what you're saying. I was looking. I'm as we're doing the show, we're on the website and looking at what's going on, and I didn't even know that Victory did hot sauces. So seeing this, and I can, they actually do produce a hot sauce using the Storm King, and I was looking, and it's their Punch Drunk hot sauce, which uses ghost chili peppers, which if you've ever had before, which we've had a couple beers even using them, can just even just wash your mouth out clean, just almost destroys if you do it wrong, not even with no balance whatsoever, which I kind of want to order this hot sauce. But ghost chili peppers, and then homegrown smoked garlic, which I'm a big fan of, garlic, and that's, if it's smoked and that roasted characteristic is there, it can be almost just sweet like candy. Just to give it that a little bit of sugar mixed with the Storm King, and then they even add raw cacao, which just that chocolate characteristic, almost creating that mole. Absolutely, you get a little bit of everything. I could absolutely see taking this and just pouring it on your favorite barbecue. Absolutely, why not? Go for it. So I think it's going to work for all aspects. So I stand corrected.
I didn't know they made hot sauce either, and I'm from Western New York, the home of chicken wings and chicken wing hot sauce, and that hot sauce sounds delicious to me.
Yes, it does. And I would definitely love to have this with some, smoked brisket. Any smoked barbecue, anything like that.
Oh yeah.
I do get quite a bit of chocolate in the nose, along with like molasses.
The molasses, that's what it is. That's why I'm getting licorice. It's not.
Could be. But the flavor, I agree. I get tons of hops in it. The bitterness, and you're right, it melds very beautifully with the roast character. The thing I love about this beer, though, is the body.
Ooh.
I was expecting, and I'm always expecting when I see a beer this dark and this high in ABV to be big and like thick, but it's surprisingly well attenuated that it's kind of light almost. Once again, a beer that is dangerously drinkable.
It's deep.
Yeah. But there's so much flavor packed into it.
Absolutely.
That like it's a storm. It's a turbulent storm.
It's rolling in like a tempest in a tankard.
And you must respect the storm as well. As well as the monkey.
You've got to respect storm
I'm
and the
picturing
monkey.
a monkey driving, just piloting a pirate ship through a storm.
Piloting a pirate
The
ship.
golden monkey.
Expert sailor. All right. So the reason that Alex is talking about respecting the monkey so much, he actually has a Respect the Monkey t-shirt on right now from Victory. It's pretty great. I kind of wish I had one. But he's also wearing a Southern Tier ball cap. Kind of like he almost knew what we were going to talk about tonight. But these two articles of clothing kind of lead into our next discussion here. Recently, this past week, Southern Tier and Victory Brewing announced that they were, I don't know if it's a merger or acquisition or what it is legally, but basically they're combining forces under a central banner.
Artisanal Brewing Ventures.
Artisanal Brewing Ventures.
ABV.
ABV. I mean, clever of them.
That is
very
good.
But they're combining forces, and honestly, this comes in the wake of a lot of big mergers, especially in 2015. The largest of which then is AB InBev and Miller.
I don't even consider this it's a merger. I don't consider it one. I consider this a stand.
A stand?
I consider this a stand
Against the macro brewers.
Against the macro brewers. It's a brilliant move under two breweries that will be allowed to independently work, do their own things. They are not one company, and yet they will be able to grow, distribute, get more funding, more barrels, and send their products out there. And it also helps them stay away from the bigger guy who, that wants to go around and is buying up all these small breweries. And I'm just like, this is one step closer to allowing all these small brewers and just get together, keep your own shit separate. You can produce it, people will still buy it, and it's not under this one giant label. And I love that. I think, I'm not against, the bigger corporation, the AB and Bev or Miller, whatever they're called right now, because they put out a product that countrywide is still high grossing, and they can produce it continuously. They've got some of the best brewers working for them. But every time they try and hit that craft beer market by themselves, they just aren't able to pull it off, and that's why they need the small guy. Well, here's where the small guy kind of now steps in and just goes, well, I kind of want to be part of that. I did all this work to build myself up. Why aren't I forming my own, my own group of just guys that want to just produce some damn good beer? Done! I'm like, yes, that's it. Go for it. I'm proud of this. I love it.
I'm totally on board, too.
Yeah, I like it, especially going the route of merging and then getting funding through private equity instead of a big establishment. Really smart way to go. Basically they're merging the parts that they really don't need to keep separate, like their distribution channels and marketing and administration, and they're keeping this part separate that need to be kept separate, like the creative channels, the brewing, the actual breweries and the beer they're going to put out, and all the brands. I mean, all the Victory brands we talked about tonight, Hop Devil, Storm King, these are all great brands. When I see them in a store, I know exactly what I'm buying, and I love them.
True.
So I agree. I think it's a great move on their part. This isn't the only way that any brewery in a mid tier can go, and I mean they are mid tier, or they were mid tier. It's a bit generous calling them that. I think they were the 29th and low 30th something ranking breweries in terms of output in the U.S. before this. Now they're 15th, so they're in the moved up a bracket there. But it's not the only way they can go. Like Ballast Point, when they were bought by Constellation Brands. Constellation decided to leave them alone. Let Ballast Point keep doing their own thing. And I still love Ballast Point beer. They're still putting out high quality. Honestly, when I saw how Constellation treated that, I bought some Constellation stock. I was like,
Really?
well, yeah, I did. Yes. I thought this is a pretty solid move, and I think it's going to play out, especially in the craft beer scene. So there are some bigger brands out there, conglomerates, that can buy a craft brewery, and that craft brewery can still do very well. But kind of merging under this ABV brand, I'm excited to see where it goes.
I just found out. You just told me. When I was looking it up, that Sapporo was with Unibrew over Valentine's Day, and I had that going.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That was 05 or 06.
And I was like, I have no problem with this whatsoever. Absolutely. Give me all the Unibrew and Japanese beer you got. I am wholeheartedly for this. And it was, and I thought that was fantastic. And I think you had said it had merged a while ago. I was like, well, I'm unaware of this. I don't know where my beer's coming from, but apparently it's still good, so I'm okay with it.
It's still... Well, anybody buying Unibrew within the last couple of years, you're going to get a great beer. But they're owned by Sapporo. They're not an independent brewery anymore. They still produce fantastic beers.
I think what everyone's afraid of, and don't get me if I'm wrong, Alex, it's the fact that especially with the bigger guy, a lot of the brewers that especially within the craft beer world, all these guys that we, oh man, I love their product, I love this, and then that big guy comes along, and it's almost as if like, well, you can't produce what they're making, so you buy them out. And then everybody gets afraid that that product that they love so much is going to change. And I think that's the biggest fear that they have.
Yeah, well, it bothered me when Goose Island went to AB InBev.
Oh, that's right.
That bothered me, but it was mostly because that AB InBev started producing the IPA. That they did the exact same recipe, and they did it very well. They also undercut a lot of people in the beer market now for an IPA. You'll notice that it's cheaper on the shelf. But the one thing that it did give Goose Island is the money to fund projects such as Bourbon County.
This is true.
Think how readily available that is. As much as they try and keep it rare, it's everywhere now in the U.S.
Yeah,
you
big
can
distribution.
Get that.
Doesn't that make it a little sad though? Because that was a big product. I mean, raffles.
They still only put out a certain amount. And do you want it to become something like what's that one? The Dark Lord, where it's only released. It's known as one of the best Russian Imperial stouts in the world, but it's only released like on one day a year, Dark Lord Day, and you have to be in that city. You have to actually go to the brewery to get it.
You know,
it's like,
yeah.
Do you want it that rare, or do you want it rare enough that you have to run to Aurora Brew Works on at a specific time, on a specific day, just to be able to grab one of these bottles? And you're only limited to one.
I kind of want it to stay... That's a tough call. I mean, I'm a comic book collector. One of the best things I love about that is the hunt. When something becomes so accessible to me, that was so great when it came out, it almost ruins it. And I know it's weird because it's like, oh, well, now it's open to the entire country. I get it. I'm like, I would love everyone to enjoy it. But for some reason, it does take something away from it. But I get what you're saying, absolutely. And when I look at like the bourbon counties or just Goose Island in general, something is a little disheartening about the whole situation with like that, and the fact that I'm happy for them in the way it's like they get their name is constantly out there. I mean, from just commercials when I'm watching, TV or just my computer, and also I was like, "Hey, Goose Island IPA," and I'm just like, well, they probably couldn't do this if they didn't have a little bit of funding from that guy. So.
Goose Island definitely does get a lot of advertising. I mean, I see a lot of their advertising more than other craft breweries. But going back to the comments about comic books, one of the things about comic books is that you can buy it, read it, and then afterwards it kind of increases in value. So plus you don't. I mean, in some cases it's going to increase in value, in some cases you don't. But it's more about the aged value of it, so it's a true collector's item.
But there's an aged value in beer, too. But that only comes from being able to purchase a bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles of it. Because who's going to buy one bottle of Bourbon County and then stick it away in their basement and be like, oh, I'll try that in 3 years. Fuck that. I want to try it now. Yeah. I want to get 2 more bottles so I can try it next year and the following year up against those years.
Yeah, undoubtedly. It's that second bottle and third bottle that will go on the shelf.
Exactly.
Not the first bottle.
I've got that Storm Vertical Epic 12 sitting there, and every time I look at it, I'm like, not today. We're not opening that today. I don't know when this is going to be released. I don't know if there's going to be an encore series. I got nothing to guarantee it, so we're sitting on that.
And good for you. I mean, they've done the Stones come out with their encore. Yeah,
they had the 08.
Yeah. They started brewing it again, which is great. People who didn't have it at first. But I mean, it's a different batch. It's a different. They're not a macro brewery. They don't have everything machined that comes out all the time. So it's a different beer. So having that original beer and aging that original beer, I mean, that's fantastic. It's a great opportunity.
The one I've got going right now is I've got that whole series of Dogfish Head, the high ABVs. Always grabbing 2. Just grab 2. Just grab 3. I know I'm gonna whenever something comes
8.
out. All right. Actually, you know what? Good point, because there is one that I have. I don't know how I ended up with it. I've got like 12 bottles of Curmudgeon from different years.
Oh, nice.
And it's just, I bought 4. I got another 4 from a different year from somebody else. Oh, wait, it came out again this year. So from like 3 different years, I've got one type of beer, but I'm stuck now also with 12 different bottles.
That's when you get a 4-pack of something like Curmudgeon, you drink 1 or 2 of them. You don't have to save all 4.
But I know what it tasted like that year, and now I'm just going to let the rest of them sit, and then when I just get to maybe special release, maybe it's, that anniversary for that brewery, and I can sit there and go, all right, line them up. There we go. Crack them all open. I'm like, oh man, remember how that tasted? Remember how this tasted? And they've all been sitting there for maybe 2-3 years or even longer, and it doesn't get any worse. It just gets better with age.
There you go. And it is. I mean, with the craft breweries being bought by bigger breweries in some instances like Goose Island, where their beers are more accessible. I mean, on the one hand, you have the absence of that romantic value of a beer that's super rare, in some instances available once a year, but in some cases, just still super rare. Then you have the more egalitarian value of this beer is now accessible to a lot of people. It's still priced fairly. It's not cheap. You're not going to get it for the same price as you would for a pack of Blue Light. And you will have to line up a little bit at your local craft beer shop, but it's still available. Something you can grab, maybe grab 2 or 3 of, age some of it for yourself, see how it turns out. So there are those two kind of dueling notions, and I think the craft beer industry is still kind of filling out which one's going to survive and move forward into the future.
I mean, I'm glad. You want to keep the distribution, spread it around, but remember that product, it was special. There was a reason why it was special. And I think people should appreciate and enjoy that. So maybe not pump it out so much, but at least send it everywhere you can when it does come out.
Which is what they do with the Bourbon County. It's out once a year. Once it's gone, it's gone.
I tried to get tickets for Bourbon County. I didn't get any. I wanted to go there. Stop mocking me.
It was delicious this year.
And with that, let's move on to our final beer. We made it, everyone. Finally. We alluded to it earlier. Old Horizontal.
Getting horizontal.
We're getting horizontal.
I'm still vertical.
Dan's the outcast here. Way to be the minority, man.
Always.
Great barley wine. We wanted to finish the night strong, which is why it's a bit of a toss-up in terms of flavor, whether you want to finish the night with a stout or a barley wine, but we decided to go higher ABV. This guy's clocking in at 11% ABV right now. So it's a pretty big barley wine.
Yeah, and it's the first beer of the night that we can actually taste alcohol in. There's definitely a boozy character to this beer.
That's definitely true. All the other beers were either subtle, very drinkable, or in the case of the stouts, I mean, there's just so much character in a stout. It's hard to...
It's kind of masked.
Yeah, it's masked. But with this one, no, I'm definitely getting that booziness.
Yeah, right in the back. But it's nice and sweet.
Honeyed
like
malt.
Yeah, honey, toffee.
That's a good descriptor.
Candied.
Yeah.
That candied citrus take on it. I actually kind of just stuck my nose in my nose.
I was going to say, this is all in the nose, too. So after
I'm just nose deep and just...
just going to town on that beer.
I really am. It's just... But it gives you that, just perfect around this time, that just that warming feeling that I love about beers like this. It's perfect. Just... cold outside, I'm drinking something that's just making me warm on the inside. It does the reverse effect of, that thermal illusion we talked about certain other beers, where, yeah, it's so refreshing, but this is the exact opposite. It's actually providing a thermal illusion in the opposite direction. It's warming my body.
True. It's a
even
cool...
though it's thinning my blood.
It's a cool, cold beer, but it presents a warming effect. You're right. Opposite thermal illusion. And this has been kind of a weird winter in Buffalo, at least. We've had some warm parts, we've had some cold parts. And from a beer perspective, I really haven't... Normally, I just easily stick with porters, stouts, barley wines. Mm-hmm. But this winter, it's kind of been all over the place. I enjoyed some IPAs the other day when it was 40 degrees outside. So it's been kind of odd, but a barley wine is one of those beers that I think you can really enjoy despite the temperature or whatever the temperature is. If it's cold outside, you get that warm boozy effect. If it's warm outside, I mean, you still get that nice crisp Belgian character to it.
Although, no offense to you, Chris, 40 degrees in mid-February of Buffalo, that's fucking summer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So IPA. Totally within realm.
Yeah.
It's a rarity.
That's why I'm so confused.
But you know what? I've had barley wines during the summer, but it's mostly on like a cool night sitting outside around a bonfire type of deal.
A good scotch. That's... No.
A scotch ale or a scotch?
Like a scotch. A good warm scotch. I do like a good scotch around the fire, but it just gives you that the alcohol part just gives you a good warming feeling. You do pick up all those notes of caramel and everything, but as it moves down your throat, it's just such a that warmth hits you, and it just hits that center of your chest. You're like, I just feel a little bit, I don't know, robust. I don't know what the word is, but it just feels so good, and I can do that. Bonfire, doesn't matter. Middle of winter, go whatever.
Okay, so here's a question for you guys regarding the seasons in beer. So barley wine better in the colder months. I mean, it's designed to present some warmth. So if it is summer, what kind of if you want a high ABV beer, a big strong high ABV beer, what are you gonna go with? And I'm not talking about like with
always
now,
always 120.
It's a ubiquitous answer.
What beer do you go with? When? Always.
Well, it doesn't fucking matter. You drink this. No. So a big IPA is a legitimate response. But in the winter, it seems like it's really easy to come up with those beers because those kind of boozy beers present the warming effect that you want during the winter.
Right.
Like a big stout, like a big barley wine. But during the summer, and I'm not talking about like 110 degree day where it's the middle of the day, you've been working outside, and then you want a big beer. You're not going to want a big beer. But assuming it's a warm summer night, and you want a strong beer, what kind of beer would you go with?
That Golden Monkey would actually be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's effervescent, so it's kind of refreshing. That fruity character that's in there, but it's still high enough alcohol that you're going for that.
Okay.
If you're going for that alcohol,
so nice.
So stronger, like a Belgian triple.
Yeah, a Belgian triple.
Okay. Dan,
but even a double
I'm
IPA
right now, so
there's a lot of imperial IPAs that are very drinkable.
In warmer weather as well as
right.
Yeah.
High ABV beer. I'm actually drawing a blank right now. Too many.
Too many. So it's a warm summer night. You have a fire going for effect more than warmth because it's 80 degrees outside. You're sitting around it. Let's say you're out of scotch or you don't want scotch, so you're not going liquor, but you want a strong beer. You want to get a good buzz going. What kind of beer do you go with?
To mind, AleSmith Old Numskull.
It's a barley wine.
I know it's a barley wine. That's the problem. That's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. I'm like, why not? The temperature has nothing to do. I mean, I could be sitting in front of a fire and I just want, if it's only beer I've got on hand, does it have to be an IPA? I mean, because if it's an IPA, then I'm going to drink more of something that, it might be a smaller bottle, smaller ABV, but I might drink more of it. If it's, a bigger bottle, maybe I go for something a little stronger, So I'm sitting in front of the fire, and what do I want? And I'm like, all right, this fire's glowing, and the stars are out, and I'm sitting back, and I'm relaxing in this chair. What do I reach for? And for some reason, I just said, a slight chill on an AleSmith Old Numskull barley wine. I pick up that bottle. It's nice and it's a little cold, a little chilled. End of the night, maybe 10, 11 o'clock. Slight wind coming through, great breeze. I'm in a hoodie. I'm just feeling relaxed. I pour that out. I take that first sip. Hits my lips. That slight chill on that bottle. And all of a sudden, it just goes down nice and smooth. And then my body just feels warm and toasty. And I'm in complete comfort.
Like I said, barley wine's around a fire.
That is poetic. I'm kind of pissed it's not summer and I can't go do that right now.
Soon.
Soon.
I actually, this past summer, I had Bigfoot barley wine.
That is
yeah.
And the hop character in it is so...
I just had that.
It's so in your face that it kind of goes along with summer. When you're drinking IPAs all day and then you finally get to that, we're sitting around the fire and it's cooling down a little bit. It's like I do want something a little bit bigger to really end the night on a high note. It's like that hop character just comes forward.
It would have worked. End the note on a high night.
It would have.
Save it for
especially
April,
with this beer.
And with that, we come to the end of our podcast for tonight. I want to thank everyone for listening. And, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, please go ahead and rate us on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud. The ratings definitely help us out. So definitely go ahead and give us a rating there. Leave a comment if you have one. And in the future, as far as comments go, let us know if there's a brewery you want us to tackle, a certain topic, any special beers. We want to go ahead and incorporate those as well. Not only the comments, but you can reach us as far as those go on Instagram or Twitter at Brain on Hops, Facebook, Your Brain on Hops, as well as our website itself, www.yourbrainonhops.com. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Bye.
Happiness is not pleasure, it's victory.